Morning, good morning. So before we get fully into our conversation, I want the audience to make sure they know exactly what it is that your company does. And John, I want to start with you. Can you talk a little bit about what your company does?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess everyone's pretty familiar with the Groupon story, and most people associate the company with daily deals. And what the way I view the company is that at our core purpose is about connecting consumers and local merchants. And in doing that, we're presenting consumers with unique local experiences. And I think, for us, that purpose, if you like, also then helps build strong communities. And I feel there's a real shift away from the big box retailer to the main street. And I think we're part of that movement, if you like. I mean, in fact, a great number to throw out is we've dropped $18 billion into local businesses since we started. So I think we're really about connecting consumers and local merchants.
Sarah?
Honeyfund is a wedding gift registry where couples can receive the gift of their honeymoon travel and experiences as a wedding gift. So, and this concept is growing very fast, especially amongst millennials. The idea of giving an experience for a life event like a wedding is also growing tremendously.
HomeAway is a global vacation rental home market. We're owned by the Expedia Group, and our core purpose is really about bringing families and groups together. And we believe the best way for families and groups to spend time together is at whole vacation rental homes. We offer, beach homes, condos, cabins, and villas everywhere in the world, from Outer Banks to Aspen to Tuscany to Bali. And we just think it's an incredible way to spend time together.
So Sarah, you founded Honeyfund in 2006.
That's
and
correct.
now, as you said, the idea of a Honeyfund-like registry is everywhere. What was it that you were seeing in 2006 that made you think that this was going to be a viable opportunity?
Yeah, so my co-founder, husband Josh, and I were living together. We already had all this stuff, and we were getting married, and we wanted to go to Fiji. And we worked really hard, 40 hours a week and more. He worked at Macromedia coding. He was one of the original programmers of Dreamweaver, and of course they got bought by Adobe. And I was working in marketing and, working my way up in the corporate ladder, just a lot of stress and a lot of struggle. And so we just crowdfunded our own honeymoon to make it happen. And the biggest surprise was our wedding guests' enthusiasm. They gave us more than $5,000, and they begged us to make something like that available for other couples. And that's why Honeyfund was created.
Wow. So John, as you mentioned, Groupon, I think a lot of us are familiar with it, with the discount haircuts that appeared in our emails. What types of experiences are you guys focused on, and what types of experiences really sell to your consumers?
I mean, we've thought, and it's interesting thinking about what is an experience, because if you look at what people would consider to be a traditional experience, it's kind of things to do. So, it's museums, it's swamp tours, it's bowling rinks, all that kind of stuff. Well, we sold about 100 million of those, give or take. But the other part of our business, so casual dining, for me, that is now an experience. I mean, if you look at spas and salons, it's an experience. And the way I think about the current consumer is that they're the look at me consumers. They live their lives through social media. Now, embracing a TV and saying, look at this TV I just bought, isn't going to get you many likes, isn't going to get you many shares. But showing your friends at dinner, or doing a skydive on a swamp tour or a whale watching tour, that creates social currency. And I think that's one of the core things that we think our business drives in this sort of new economy.
I want to talk about that for a second, because recently there's been kind of a lot of criticism, and I would say backlash, against that idea. The fact that, if you go to a restaurant, for instance, you'll look around and everyone is Instagramming their plate. Or if you go on a beautiful vacation and you're on a secluded beach and there are two other people there, they're taking pictures to Instagram or put on social media later. And I think there's a lot of conversation around whether or not that is the way people should be living their lives, or whether they should just be in and of the moment. I'm wondering what you all think of that criticism, and if you're at all concerned that if that criticism really takes root with people and they heed it, that all of a sudden they won't be as into experiences, or at least documenting them in a way that is perhaps helpful to your business.
Well, I just want to thank Steve Jobs for making the iPhone so addicting. I don't think it's going away.
You don't think it's
and Mark Zuckerberg for stealing your data.
Yeah, he can have it.
It's certainly not something we worry about. There's been a lot of research on the impact of the iPhone since 2000 and what's happened. And in general, the youth is typically lonelier and a little bit less connected than they were before the iPhone. And in many ways, while I think there's a lot of criticism of documenting the experiences you take, because the norm for people growing up with technology has become they're on technology, experiences become more valuable and I think powerful than ever before because they're doing something different than, when I was a kid, the break from reality was to go play a video game. Now the reality is you're connected all the time, and in many ways the break becomes the experience. And so I don't see it as a worry.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I also feel like the concept that sharing your experience on social makes it more of an experience for you, and that when you're doing this thing, it's the outside of the norm to be out there experiencing life, seeing a new city, honeymooning in your dream location, whatever it is. That's a social currency.
Yeah. Well, and it leads to FOMO, which I think, so in fact, I actually think is going to be, it amplifies it, rather than sort of retards it. So.
Well, I was going to ask, how much of your business or new clients do you think come from people seeing places that other people have been or seeing other things that people have done and then asking them about it or realizing from their social media and kind of coming to your sites? Jeff?
Well, you can certainly measure a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so for us, social is a very fast-growing channel, and the shareability of experiences, and in our case, families, groups getting together, it becomes a powerful referral engine. And so you can't believe the house I stayed at for spring break. You've got to go there next year, or I've got to come back. And in many ways, that type of word-of-mouth demand generation is certainly amplified by social media, and is something that we take a lot of pride in because it's an incredible category, and we've got an incredible product. And typically, if you stay in a vacation home, you want to go back because it's a better way to spend time with friends and family, and we see that over and over again in our repeat rates.
John, do you have this?
I mean, Groupon. That's how it started. I mean, that was the whole concept. So, for us, it's incredibly important. It's a big channel for us. We see a ton of actually native sharing through the app. So, and again, if you think about this audience and our business, it's local, it's mobile, it's social. And so all of that kind of fuels the transactions that occur between consumers.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about iPhones and phones in general. How much are people using your services on their mobile phones?
Oh, I've got a really good anecdote. So I had a friend come up to me and say, "Can I give you some feedback about Honeyfund?" I said, "Sure." She's like, "Well, I was sitting in the pew waiting for the wedding to start, and I was trying to give the gift on my mobile phone, and there was this one thing that wasn't like that user friendly." And I was like, "Hold up! Like you're sitting in the pew before the wedding started. Like that's what mobile is for wedding gifting and everything else. It's the convenience. You can do it right there, then and there."
That's pretty insane.
Yeah, there's a massive shift to mobile, and so I think it's become the default way that people shop. Now, it'll never be the way that people take vacations, and so it's part of the browse experience, and it's increasingly part of the book experience. But it's still one of many touch points.
Yeah.
We're nearing 3/4 of our business is mobile, and in some events it's higher than that. So. We are mobile. We're not. I mean, everyone talking about mobile first. All that. We literally everything we do now is all. We look at the app first, and we look at the app experience first.
Web first.
Yeah, web is an afterthought in some ways now.
Absolutely.
So.
Right. So Sarah said that millennials are a huge part of her business. Jeff and John, I'm wondering what the breakdown is for you guys. Are you very millennial driven, or do you guys have some Gen Xers, some Boomers?
Well, I'd say we certainly have a cross section of all of the above. I think the history of our brands, VRBO and HomeAway, goes back generations. And so VRBO is almost 20 years old. In France, our brand's almost 30 years old. And so we've probably got a more long-standing base of your Gen Xers and your Boomers. And it's also, in many cases, a more premium occasion, and it's a multi-generational trip. And so you may have a millennial and a Gen Xer and a Boomer all on the same trip, but we do see millennials as the biggest growth opportunity, and that's manifesting itself in terms of the type of homes we're bringing on, the destinations they're in, and then also how much they share and the way they travel.
I mean, with millennials, it's a pretty big range. That's the thing that always strikes me. I mean, you're looking at like 82 to 2004.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people. I always like to stir up researchers and tell them that there's only 2 life stages. It's like before kids or after kids. And all these other segmentations don't matter. But so there's a big range there, right? For Groupon, we're definitely orientated in the older sort of demographic in terms of that range. It's very female-centric. We find that the female consumer often is the social organizer, and will certainly invest more time in sort of discovering experiences.
Right. I'm wondering how you guys are all thinking about competition. You guys are all in spaces where competition kind of crops up very suddenly and can grow very rapidly. So I'm wondering how you guys think about maintaining a competitive edge over other brands that are trying to do or are doing things that are very similar. Jeff, I want to start with you.
Yeah, sure. And so, we're in an incredibly competitive space in travel. And so huge global brands, new entrants. And I think for us, there's been a few different things we've done. One of the things is we really obsess on that family and group occasion and being sure we get something right that's not only unique to our category, but we think is kind of underserved. And a lot of what you see across the travel dynamic is people are trying to do everything. And so competition is explicitly into experiences, into flights, into cars, into hotels. And it's hard to do everything as well as to be great at something. And so for us, part of the reason that the Expedia Group acquisition was so compelling was Expedia can do all of the everything, and we can really focus on being incredible at family and group travel and differentiate ourselves in how they plan and catering to a similar dynamic John described of like typically a female head of household is planning those occasions. How do we make that shopping experience great? How do we make the pre-book experience great? And then how do we make it shareable once they're there so we can get a great repeat and referral engine?
Mm-hmm. With Honeyfund, we do have a lot of competition and more all the time. The crowdfunding industry is $34 billion globally. That's a big, big opportunity for people who are getting into crowdfunding. And a niche in crowdfunding like wedding gifts, which is a compulsory buy, is also very interesting. So, so we look at it as, again, really creating a user experience and a brand experience that people remember. Wedding guests, when they come to Honeyfund, they say, by and large, that was so fun, shopping for an experience versus an item at a store. I wish I had that when I got married, so we really try to capitalize on that and keep, the nice thing about Honeyfund is everyone who signs up invites 150 of their closest friends and family to the site, and they're mostly, compelled to buy something because it's a wedding gift. So we really have a huge opportunity to keep that engine going, and all we really have to do is be good at what we do and in our niche.
Yeah, I mean, there are no really daily deal sites left. So if you look at us in that frame, we're the last business standing. But if you look at sort of the broader markets that we play in, like restaurants, things to do, and things like that, then there are a lot of vertical players. We also look at, like quite honestly, the likes of Google and Facebook and these sort of players as well. But the thing that makes us different and separates us is the transactability. Mm-hmm. So you can transact on our platform. Most of these other platforms you cannot transact. So we think that sets us apart. The other is that we want to become a fully integrated local platform. So we're actually inviting the competition to plug into our platform. We actually want to resell. We want to increase the amount of supply we have and make it easier for consumers to find local experiences.
Right. Why do you guys think that the experience economy took off? What changed in American culture or the way that Americans consume things that all of a sudden made people decide we want the experience versus the thing?
I say technology. I mean, the minute that you could go online and pitch money into somebody's honeymoon, like it was happening, it was very much all about making it possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think the social mobile intersection of people's identities started to be more about what they were doing and how many people could see that than potentially, in the 70s or 80s when it may have been more about what you were wearing or what you drove. And so I think that identity shift got more and more people into experiences, but then also just the ubiquity and how easy it is to travel around cheaply. And so low-cost carriers, different lodging options like ourselves, it's really opened up travel to a much wider set of income segments, and I think made it more approachable, not only at the travel level, but at the local experience level.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of sort of valuing experiences versus material possessions is not new. Right. You had Thoreau talking about it and so on. So, like, people have been considering this for a long time. I definitely agree. I think that technology is kind of this look at me FOMO kind of generation that we're building has definitely sort of accelerated that adoption. There's also actually one when we were looking at how to sort of position Groupon, we actually, this is a bit of an up for The Atlantic, we looked at an article by Killingsworth and Gilbert, and they talk about the utility of experiences. And it's a great article. I'd invite you to go check it out. But at a high level, what it said there's no fun in waiting for your iPhone to arrive. But if you're planning a vacation or a wedding or a dinner, the anticipation of that and the utility of that generates is way more than the material product. Mm-hmm. So I think that is also driving this generation. And then you've got technology and sort of the new economics of the economy providing for that experience.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we've talked a little bit about, well, we mentioned Facebook, and we talked a little bit about the ability to kind of know what the consumer wants, see what other people are doing. Mark Zuckerberg is somewhere down the street right now testifying about Facebook and data and privacy and how we think about keeping people safe as they spend more of their lives online, and certainly as they spend more of their lives kind of telling people what they like and consuming goods online. I'm wondering how each of you is thinking about that when it comes to all of the data that you guys probably either collect or utilize to get people what they want.
Yeah, I mean, it's, especially with the regulations that are happening in Europe, a lot of the landscape is changing in a way that I think, similar to what Facebook has described, you're compelled to change things and make things more accessible, more global in a way that I think is actually pretty healthy. When we think about trust and safety, we're not only thinking about the data people have, but we're also thinking about being sure that it's a trusted marketplace because in general, people's vacation homes may be their most valuable or second most valuable asset, and certainly people's vacations with their family are their most treasured time of the year. And so we also want it to be a trusted marketplace in the sense of that people, know what they're getting into, it is as advertised, and they can have a great stay. And in many ways, that ability is powered by more data. And so there's a balancing act for us. The more data we can collect to power trust, the better off the physical experiences are. But we've got to do it in a way that's, authentic, trustworthy, and gives people the, basically gives people the peace of mind that they know what that trade is.
Mm-hmm. We've always really erred on the side of privacy and security, and since day one, we didn't want to be renting and sharing people's email addresses or, promoting their pages outside of their friends and family. And that's a nice thing about Honeyfund is that really it's focused on this trusted core people that you're inviting here to your wedding. So we really, we believe in privacy and security, and we stand by it.
I mean, you have a responsibility, and I think, if you breach that responsibility, you can see what happens. So we take it very seriously, and I think that what's happening with GDPR, I mean, you've probably got the same thing going on in your business at the moment. I don't know if folks know what that is, but it's an EU legislation that it basically, as a consumer, you can basically port your data, and it's causing as companies like ours, big multinational companies, a lot of headaches, because it takes a lot of reordering, reworking in terms of how you manage your data. But we're doing it, and we're doing it willingly because it's a responsibility you have as a company. The challenge and the sort of counterpoint to that is we have a very complex marketplace. We sell a lot of stuff, and so trying to organise that in a way that makes sense does add value to the consumer. So we're also obviously trying to leverage our data and making sure that it's transparent, making sure the consumers have opted in, but also leveraging it to give them a better experience, a shopping experience, discovery experience.
All right. Jeff, with HomeAway, I know, with other kind of home rental sites, there has been a lot of talk recently about regulation and the needs for insurance and how to keep people safe while they are in these homes and liability and issues like that. I'm wondering what you are thinking when it comes to the future of that and how to keep people safe while they're in homes and also how to keep homeowners safe.
Yeah, and I think there's two parts here. I mean, in many ways, the increased focus on regulation, I think, is a signal of just how booming the category is. And so, the category went from kind of a sleepy offline category to something that's really becoming mainstream. And as it goes mainstream, there's more attention on, what does this mean for communities? How are people traveling this way? What is the safety? For us, we require all of our homeowners and property managers to comply with all local safety and taxation regulations. But we also are actively working to figure out what that fair regulation looks like. There aren't easy answers here, but for us, it's really about being sure that families and groups can continue to experience this different way of travel because we think it's basically healthy for humanity and a great option for a lot of communities that may not have the infrastructure to otherwise support this type of tourism.
So I want to let the audience know that we are going to take questions from you guys. If you can start thinking about those questions now, condensing them down, making sure that they are questions and not comments, we would be very appreciative. So you guys are all fast-growing companies. I wonder what you think the next frontier is for each of you.
Oh yeah, so I'd love to talk about that. So for Honeyfund, we recently partnered with Target. Target, of course, one of the top 5 national retailers in the wedding registry space. They really saw the trend towards experience giving, and they wanted to offer that as a feature on their wedding registry. So for us, the trend was taking Honeyfund off of honeyfund.com and putting it on target.com and really looking at ways that we can integrate the concept of honeymoon experience giving outside of our own domain.
John?
We focus on probably a few key dimensions. One is making it easier for customers. I mean, the millennial generation is very unforgiving. They have very high standards, and if you don't deliver on those, they will find someone else. So, and for us, that's things like booking. So, like not all of our inventory is bookable. Has to be bookable. Sure, you're in that same space at the moment. Like that consumers want instant gratification. They want to know when they're going, like immediately. They don't want to have to mess with a voucher and a phone call and that kind of stuff. Right. So that's one. Second is I think supply. We've typically undertaken our supply through direct methods. We're now shifting that approach to basically plug in as much third-party supply, so we become a real marketplace, of real scale. We've got maybe any given time 2 or 3% of merchants, and we need to be well north of that in order to really become a marketplace in the future.
Right.
Yeah, I think for HomeAway, it's really leveraging the power of our parent company, the Expedia Group, in terms of bringing the vacation rental home experience to really be a, basically global, everyone understands it and thinks about it for every travel occasion. It's getting all of our inventory onwardly distributed onto Expedia and onto Hotels.com and onto Orbitz and Travelocity and Trivago, and then making it to where anyone who's shopping for a trip anywhere in the world sees that and knows they've got a different option. And I think that's the next frontier.
Do you all think the experience economy is here to stay, or do you think at some point the desire for goods will overtake it again?
I think atoms are going to beat bytes, and that in general, people want to spend time with each other and be doing things, not just researching things.
Yeah, as life gets more hectic and people work harder for that dollar and just to stay in the middle class, those cherished experiences are valued. In fact, we just surveyed 10 years of Honeyfund couples and asked them how much they value travel, why they continue to travel, how much they budget for travel. And they're continuing to budget about $5,000 per couple per year. And the number one reason they travel is to spend quality time together and get away from work.
Yeah, I said accelerating.
Yeah. So. All right, we want to go to the audience for questions. I think we have one right up front here.
Meg Byram. My organization is megbyram.com. I'm a lifestyle blogger. My question is, in the changing digital world, how do you see digital marketing for your company moving forward, and what does that look like?
That's a great question. We just recently completely overhauled our marketing strategy. We were needing to get away from relying so much on Google AdWords because that landscape is changing fast, especially as we get more competition. We're working a lot more with bloggers now. We launched an affiliate program so we can really help lifestyle bloggers like you monetize their site better by driving us traffic. We're also Honeyfund has thousands of social media influencers that have used the service. So that's another big frontier for us.
Do either of you have?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think everyone's been talking about personalization for a while, but for us, the new frontiers are geo and temporal targeting. So being really hitting people right at the moment, right at the right time. So right at the location, right at the right time. And so for us, we're spending a lot of money, a lot of investment in terms of working particularly with Facebook, who have really good geo data, in terms of finding ways to put the right message in front of consumers at the right time.
And I think for us, the most exciting thing is to be better at referrals and repeats targeting, given the family group dynamic and multiple people coming together, but we may only know the person that booked the trip. We can really engage a much broader, group of people that have experienced our product by being smart about digital retargeting and how we can engage those customers.
Do you have any other questions? Okay, I actually have another question. So when you think about digital advertising, again, I'm Facebook obsessed right now. I'm wondering how you guys think about working with advertisers to ensure that those ads are safe and in keeping with federal laws, but also just the standards of your site.
So when you mean the ads are safe, do you mean from a data protection standpoint?
From both the data protection standpoint and from the standpoint of, with Facebook, we've seen part of the issue was that some advertisers were using data and the ability to connect with an audience to sell things in a way that wasn't necessarily, let's say, on the up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Not sure I have a great answer. I mean, the way we approach the digital marketing space is almost everything we do is in-house data, and using our own infrastructure for how we can go power this, or basically partner with Google or Facebook to build our own groups with them. There's not a heavy reliance on third-party data and how we can basically port in other aspects. We've reached a scale through our own history in the Expedia group to where it's just not really a necessity. And so I think for us, the focus is on it is the front page test of be sure anything you're running that's either creative or digitally powered is something you'd be willing to talk to all your customers about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have our own DMP, and we anonymize all our data. So, again, we take it super seriously. There's a lot of people in our company that make sure that we're not just in compliance, but really overachieving in that area. I think then there's the secondary thing is where do your ads appear?
Right.
Honestly, we're thorough and we're dedicated to ensuring that they don't appear in the wrong places, but they do on occasions, because you're going through large supply platforms that aren't always accurate.
Yeah.
And we're really looking to enhance the way an advertisement from Honeyfund is perceived. There's a lot of, actually, we just recently moved the company from Silicon Valley to Tampa, Florida, and there's a lot of technology and innovation in the advertising space in the Tampa Bay area, which you wouldn't really realize, but it's fascinating. And the idea that we actually partner with lots of companies that advertise on Honeyfund, and what we want is for the creative to be of value, to inspire or bring real dollar value to the couple as they're planning their wedding or honeymoon. So we have really high standards for how we want our couples to interact with our advertising, and not have it just be a banner ad. I mean, that's so 2008, it's over.
You were talking a little bit about that earlier. Can you talk about why you decided to move the company to Tampa?
Yeah, so Honeyfund was a very, very, very small fish in the Silicon Valley pond, and we were having a hard time competing for talent, and we had some family in the Tampa Bay area, heard about all the innovation and sort of technology investment happening there, and we've had an amazing experience moving there. The talent is absolutely there, and it's we've ramped up our team really fast. We've become sort of the big fish in the small pond, which is always great. Lots of media attention, and our company's growing faster than it ever was in Sonoma County, California. So we're really, really pleased with the move.
This is something that I'm hearing more and more in my reporting. Companies, as they try and grow, trying to get out of California, out of Silicon Valley especially. I'm wondering what other places you guys are seeing as promising when it comes to growth, especially in the search for talent.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly thrilled to be in Austin.
Yeah.
And so, on John's earlier point of 2 life stages, pre and post kids, we are phenomenal at getting people in the Bay Area who just had kids to realize that the Bay Area is not a perfect place to keep for that next stretch.
Yeah.
And getting them to come to Austin, and being in a place where you're close to a ton of universities, you've got a great climate, and you've got an incredible cost of living equation for how you can not only grow your career and have a lot of opportunities, but, frankly, to the topic of the day, invest in more experiences and have more time to put into your life.
Yeah, you think about your whole life as an experience. I mean, where do you want to live? What kind of cost of living do you want? How easy is it to travel to different places? I think a lot more people are looking at their life on the whole and saying, do I want to run this rat race for the rest of my life?
And I think globally, the other example for us would be Madrid. And so it's a different type of urban environment compared to London, and we've seen incredible growth there and a lot of enthusiasm to get to that type of city.
Right. Everyone, please join me in thanking our panel.